Ladies and gentlemen, let me show you how to cut and sew this ruched crow bubu gown. It does not have a rope in the middle and it's snatched around my underbust. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. So I worked with 2-ish yards of fabric, and I said 2-ish because it's about 2 yards and about 4 inches. Okay, so I've cut that fabric into two. So one piece was for front and one piece for the back. So I folded each piece and gave it a good press, and the length of each of the fabric is 60 inches. Okay, so now this is one piece that I folded into two and gave it a good press because we need the crease line in the middle. Okay, so I took my neck width at 4 inches. After taking my neck width at 4 inches, I took my neck depth at 1 inch, and of course this is the back part of this bubu. Okay, so I connected my neck width to my neck depth, and after doing this, the next thing I went ahead to do was at the side I came down by 1 inch to get my shoulder slant. Okay, so after I came down by 1 inch to get my shoulder slant, the next thing I went ahead to do was to connect my neck width to my shoulder slant, and we have a very beautiful neckline and shoulder line going on there. And after that, the next thing I went ahead to do was to cut it out. Like I always say, very simple, very straightforward. So after cutting the back, it is time for the front part. So I folded the back, kept it in one place, and this is the front part. Remember, you must iron it because we need the crease line in the middle. So just like we did for the back, the neck width is 4 inches and the neck depth here is 6 inches. Okay, so I'm going for a very beautiful V neckline, and I just connected the neck width to the neck depth, and this is what we have here, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm not done. At the side, I marked 1 inch just like we did for the back, and I just connected it to my neck width. Remember, I told you I wasn't done. I didn't just want the V neck to just be V. I wanted it to have a little bit curve. So I went in with my armhole ruler and I kind of curved the V. Okay, so this is like a curvy V neckline. It's in between V and round neck, but not exactly round. Okay, so this is what we have here, ladies and gentlemen. Now the next thing I went ahead to do was to cut it out. Okay, so I just went ahead to cut out the neckline, then I went ahead to cut out the shoulder line. Somehow I felt like I made a mistake in my neck width, but after I verified my measurement for the back again, I realized that I was right. Okay, so now let's just start the sewing process because it's a very straightforward one. So this is the front part, and the next thing I went ahead to do was I grabbed my back part, I secured it with office pin to the front part, and I just went ahead to join along the shoulder lines. Okay, so I took it over to my sewing machine before I bite my mouth, and I joined the shoulder line. So I joined the shoulder line on the left hand side. I also joined the shoulder line on the right hand side. Okay, so you want to take your time so that you make sure that everything is cool, everything is neat. So after joining the shoulder lines, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we have here. I grabbed a black bias, and what I did here was I used the bias tape to turn over the neckline. Now, because this is a V neckline, I started joining the bias from the middle of the front part, so I would get that V. I will get that V very well, because sometimes if you start from another point, you don't exactly get the V, and next thing you know is you're converting the V to a round neckline. Okay, so after attaching the bias to the neckline, you guys have seen me do my bias trick here. The next thing I went ahead to do was to top stitch. After top stitching, I went ahead to fold the bias, and I just use the bias to turn over the neckline. Okay, so after using the bias to turn over the neckline, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we have here. So this is the back part, and this is the front part, neatly turned over. You want to make sure your stitches are straight and they are neat. Okay, so now from the middle I marked 4.5 inches. Okay, so you can mark your nipple to nipple measurement plus half an inch, or you can just mark it wherever you want. Okay, so I marked 4.5 inches. You can mark 5, you can mark 6. It just depends on the vibe you're going for. Okay, so after I mark 4.5 inches, from the top, I went ahead to mark 14 inches because I wanted it to be like 1 inch away from my underbust point. Okay, so I marked 14 inches. Okay, So is it 14 inches? I marked 14.5 inches because my underbust point is 13.5 inches. So I just came down by 1 inch and I marked 14.5 inches. Okay. So now I told you guys that it is snatched around the waistline. So to snatch the boo, we need a kind of a band. So I just got a fabric. Honestly, I didn't measure, but it's about 4 inches in width, and the length actually is 17 inches. Okay. So I just went ahead to fold and I joined the pieces together. I said I didn't measure, but I think I measured because I'm giving you guys accurate measurement here. Okay, so I joined it. After joining it by the side, I pushed the seam in the middle and I joined one part. I closed one part of the band. Okay, and I did 2 pieces of this. Okay, so now after closing one end of the band, I used my scissors to push it out. Okay, and of course I gave it a good press after all this process. Okay, so after pushing it out, I made sure that the pointy end came out and I did 2 pieces. You need 2 pieces of this. Okay, so now this is the band we just sewed. Okay, so the first thing I went ahead to do was to get my office pin and I secured the band. Yes, NEPA took light. Welcome to Nigeria. Yeah, so I secured the band to that place where I marked the band to be, and from the top, from that my shoulder line joining, I came down by 10 inches. Okay, I came down by 10 inches, and from this other part again I came down by 10 inches. Now after coming down by 10 inches, I drew a straight line downwards for 1 inch. That's my 1 inch joining allowance, but I didn't show it on camera. Okay, so now I marked it downwards because that is where my sleeve is going to be. But before that, let us join this band. Okay, so I took it back to my sewing machine and I just attached the band with straight stitches to the front part, and I did this for the first piece and I also did this for the second piece. Okay, so now after doing this, we have our band well attached to the front part. You want to make sure it's neat because you guys know this is going to be in the front part of your dress. You don't want to fall your hand. So remember I told you guys that we need a crease line. We need a crease line, very very important. Okay, and you can do this when you iron it. Okay, so that is my crease line, but it's not really showing here, so I went ahead to use my chalk to align it out to get the middle. So I just used my chalk to mark the middle of this front part, and from the bottom I came up by 1.5 inch. So from that my 1.5 inch mark, now this is my elastic band. Okay, I'll be elastic tape, choose the right one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to attach the elastic tape from the bottom to the top, not top to bottom, bottom to top, so you have a very beautiful effect going on here. Okay, so you want to make sure you stretch it and you attach and you stop just where the bias is starting. That's where the bias is starting. That's where you stop. You will see what I will do. Okay, so now I just started from that my 1.5 inch mark and I stretched my tape. You want to make sure you stretch it till it gets to its elastic limit. Good. This is where physics class comes in. Okay, so I just went ahead to keep stretching and sewing, stretching and sewing, stretching and sewing. Remember, you stretch the elastic till it gets to its elastic limit. Let me give you guys a little bit of physics. Elastic limit is when an elastic compound has yielded all its elasticity, and if it goes beyond that point, it gets to its breaking limit where it becomes permanently plastic. I know I'm messing up the principle, but something like that. Thank you for coming to my physics class. SS1 or SS2, whatever. Okay, so after attaching the elastic, you guys know that for our sleeve opening, I came down by 10 inches. Okay, so from that 10 inch mark, I just marked 1 inch sewing allowance. So from that my 1 inch sewing allowance, I just joined the side of this boo. Okay, so from that sleeve opening mark, you are just going to make a straight line downwards and you are going to join the side of the boo. Okay, so I joined the left hand side. Okay, and I also went ahead to join the right hand side. Now for the right hand side, I did bottom to top because you guys know how our sewing machines work. Okay, so I just kept joining on the 1 inch sewing allowance, I just kept joining and joining and joining. You guys, I'm enjoying my industrial sewing machine now. My baby is no longer crying because of the sound. And when I got to the sleeve opening mark, I stopped. So the next thing I also went ahead to do was to fold the hem. So I folded the hem on 1 inch sewing allowance as well, and I just stop stitch and I turned over the hem of this boo. Now I'm folding twice because my weaving machine, I can't find the spring. I think I threw it away. So for now we are just managing. So you see that where the sleeve opening stopped, right? This is how we're going to finish up the sleeve opening of this boo. The first thing I went ahead to do was to fold it on this 1 inch sewing allowance. Okay, so I folded it on the 1 inch sewing allowance. Okay, so now the next thing you are going to do, listen attentively. You are going to sew like this. You're going to sew horizontally, then you're going to sew vertically all the way and come back horizontally. Now I just felt like that explanation I explained to you guys beside my sewing machine is confusing. So I decided to come to my sewing table, okay? And yes, I adjusted my camera so you will see me very, very, very well, okay? So you guys, this is what I did. So the first thing I did was I grabbed this my sleeve, this my boo. You see that sleeve opening that we've created? The first thing I went ahead to do was to show you guys, of course, so you don't get confused. See where the sleeve opening stopped, and I just folded it with that 1 inch seam allowance that we used to join the side. You want to make sure you maintain that. Now the next thing I went ahead to do was to sew horizontally, okay? Then you meant to sew vertically and back horizontally. When you are sewing horizontally, you want to make sure that the seam is opened up, okay? You want to make sure you're not sewing any other part of this boo. So I just I took it to my sewing machine, and I just went ahead to sew it horizontally, then vertically. See, if all this thing I've been explaining you don't understand, just wait for the finished result, you understand. I went ahead to sew it vertically. Now after sewing it vertically, yeah, I came back and I sewed it horizontally again, more like a rectangle shape. Yeah, a rectangle that is standing. Yeah, so after sewing, this is what we have here. Do you now understand what I did, ladies and gentlemen? This is what we have here. This is how I finished up the opening of the hand opening of this, or the sleeve opening, whatever you want to call it, of this boo. So you guys, after doing this is what the finished look looks like. This is what the boo looks like. Is it not giving? It is giving everything it's meant to give. It was meant to give, whatever. Okay. This is what the bubble gown looks like. Now I had not tied the belt here, so I just went ahead to show you guys how to tie your belt. You have to put your hand back into your bubble, tie your belt. Now it is giving my underbust, around my underbust area, a very snatched look. You guys, I've already made two. I made 2 of this bubble that day, and I'm going to make about 2 more or 3 more. If you want to hide your baby bump, if you want to look stylish, if you want to look rich, even though me and you, we know that me and you, we are broke, sew this gown. Sew this gown, ladies and gentlemen, and buy a wig. In fact, this wig is my sister that bought it for me. Okay, so you guys, this is how to cut and sew a ruched bubble gown that doesn't have a rope. If you enjoyed this video, now this is the second one. Okay, if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe, share, follow my page. I'll see you in the next. Bye.